If you have a factory, you may find that you are losing control. You think you have control, but actually real-time data is the next step in the efficiency process. It's a very exciting time, and here to tell us all about some very exciting technology is Gerhard Greef. Gerhard, thank you so much for joining me on scottcundill.com.
Thanks for the introduction there, Scott. Yeah, like you say, typically in manufacturing facilities, people don't know what's going on the plant floor in real time. I have to kind of just clarify that it's in real time. So they typically know what went on at the end of the shift, right? So what happened during the shift or what happened yesterday. But very few companies actually have that real-time short interval controls available on the plant floor. And this lack of real-time information then makes it very difficult to do any optimization. Because to do optimization, you need to know where to look for delays in the process, where to look for waste in the process. So not having that information in real time kind of really prevents you doing any optimization initiative. And the reason for that is various. It could be that people don't know that there's some things that they can do with technology because it's outside their scope of experience, or they have some islands of technology, but they don't talk to each other and they don't know how to get them to talk to each other. So there's various reasons for that. But it is a fundamental problem in a lot of factories that people don't actually know what's going on the plant floor on a minute-to-minute basis.
Okay, so what is the reasoning and the justification behind saying, okay, we need to innovate our plant? What's wrong with yesterday's news? I mean, is it a cost saving? Is it an efficiency? Is it a black hole of things that could go wrong? What are the key reasons why you would want to go, okay, let me dedicate some time and effort to actually upgrading my plant?
Well, as many problems there are in the factory, as many solutions there are, right? And every company is different. So for some companies, for instance, it's a question of if we do not track the material every step of the process, and there's 362 processes following 14 different types of materials to come together into one product, right? It means that when our customer comes back to us and say, I had a problem on this specific product, right? Show me where it came from. You cannot do it, right? So, and especially in the automotive industry and in the aeronautical industry, pharmaceutical, biochemistry, everywhere where a product can have an impact on somebody's life, right? So it can make you sick, it can get you to die, right? So that's highly regulated industries. It's important to know where stuff came from so that you can backtrack the genealogy, identify what went wrong, like the Ford Cougar that caught fire as a result of electrical harness, right? So if you cannot trace back this electrical harness or the 2 or 4 or 5 electrical harnesses that actually caught fire, traced back to this batch, right? So let's trace the batch forward and recall all the cars that used harnesses from that batch. It means that you have to say, right, okay, so this car was manufactured in January and that one in June and that one in September. So every car manufactured between June and September for the whole year, I now have to recall because I cannot track back. So that is one. So it's a preventative safety thing on the one hand, but then on the other hand, it can also be we are trying to maximize throughput through our facility, right? Because we'd never have enough throughput. So there's two things we can do. We can either put in a new production line, right, at a massive capital cost, right? We need to train people to run it, etc., etc. Or we can see how can we maximize our current capacity in the plant. Now, how do you maximize current capacity in the plant? You need to know, is the machine available and is it running? Is it running at the correct rate and at the correct quality, right? And if you can ensure that it runs at maximum rate when it is available to run, right, and you run at maximum quality, then you will have maximum throughput through that specific machine. Right now, the problem that some companies face is that they don't know how fast the machine is running and when the machine is running, right? And so they need to put in a system that can tell them, oh, well, rather put it this way, they only know for a fact that during the last 8-hour shift, the machine stood for 4 hours. They know that at the end of the shift, as opposed to know when the machine stops for more than 5 minutes, right? Something is wrong. Let's send somebody to check out why the machine stopped, right? So it's a difference between knowing something now and knowing something at the end of the shift. Brings a lot of benefit because that 4 hours production lost could have been prevented, or some of it could have been prevented, right? Like I say, different return on investments for different specific problems in the plant.
This is all coming together now and it makes perfect sense. So thank you for that explanation. It's really a case of saying, okay, well, look, if your machines are running suboptimally, for example, you want to know that now. You don't want to know that yesterday or days ago. And obviously you mentioned the tracing, be able to trace back if a particular problem occurs. Talk to us about some of the dashboards. So you guys at Eritron are obviously really on the pulse of innovation and change. Tell us about some of the dashboards and the kind of real-time reporting, and what would a factory manager have to change in their day-to-day life to accept this new world of real-time data?
Well, there's, once again, different types of real-time data. So the one type is where you provide the data to the plant operator so that the plant operator can determine or can see whether or not he's doing the right thing at the right speed. Okay, so you give him an indication, this needs to be produced at 100 units a minute, you're producing 80 units a minute. If you continue at 80 units a minute, you're not going to meet your target for the end of your shift, right? So it's putting the knowledge and the information in the hand of the operator that's actually on the machine that can make the change.
Okay,
right? So that's one type.
Are you telling us that there's intelligence built into this as well? It doesn't just give you data, but it has the capacity to analyze that data and give you certain results that almost like a kind of AI, artificial intelligence or machine learning or algorithm?
Well, yeah, but ultimately, right? So this is kind of out of the box basic functions that's provided by a lot of software out there, right? So that's first one. The next one is, and a lot of companies are actually moving that way because of our skill shortage, of our lack of experience. We do not have the specialists that have been in the job for 30 years and know the machine inside out, right? It's young people coming in, they know a lot, but they don't have the experience. So what companies are doing is they're taking a lot of that operational knowledge and they're centralizing that, right? So they starting to use things like artificial intelligence, advanced pattern recognition, robotic process automation to identify problems, right? And provide the tools to diagnose the problems, to do the root cause analysis in a central location, right? So as opposed to having, let's a lot of manufacturing facilities have a boiler, right? So instead of having a boiler specialist on each one of the facilities, right, you have one facility that basically can monitor the data from all the different boilers in the whole plant fleet, right? And that guy builds his tools to monitor the boilers, right? And he can say, well, this boiler's got this problem. He can contact the plant and say, your plant is starting to experience this problem. This is the way to fix it, right? So kind of a remote diagnostic center, right? Some of our other big clients are busy implementing central control rooms where the operators, the actual physical plant operator, with the manager of that area, with the production manager, with the technical managers, the maintenance people, the sales people, all sit in the same facility. They can all see, kind of on video walls around the room, what's happening in the plant, so they can do collaborative decision making. And those two, okay, so those are the other ones. And then the new thing that people are looking at is, historically, the prettier the pictures, in the control room, the more the consultant got paid. So 3D animation and all sorts of things like that, which looks great, but distracts the operator. So the new thought is to do kind of grayscale, boring graphics, right? That does not, so it doesn't look like a tank, or it doesn't look like a boiler, but it's gray, and it only starts going yellow and red where something is wrong, where you've got 3 or 4 variables, and one of the variables are starting to drift out of the specification, so it becomes yellow. So the operator knows, okay, something is wrong here. I need to start pulling this variable back to be within the normal operating envelope.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you say that, because it's now, we've seen this in other interviews that I've done, is about how that it's not about, fancy anymore. It's about getting the job done in a way that's more understandable, but also, as you say, it's not distracting. And we've actually seen that. It's almost like we've kind of gone, I don't want to call it full circle, but we've gone to this kind of flashiness, very, very kind of complex high tech, which also tends to go wrong a lot more, to something a lot simpler, but get the data right. So it's really interesting you say that. So Gerhard, thank you very much for joining us. It's really interesting. And I think that anyone who's got a factory, anyone who's got a plant listening to this, contact Gerhard from Eritron. Details are in the bottom of the description. And once again, Gerhard, very insightful. Thank you so much for joining me on scottcundill.com.
It's a pleasure, Scott. And, we do everything from electrical work right through to simulation and machine learning. So, we're there for our clients.